to speak during any public comment portion, please raise your hand. This can be done by either through the Zoom app by pressing *9 on your phone. I will unmute members of the public individually if they have their hand raised. When it is your turn to speak, you will get a prompt or request to unmute. Please click on the prompt or press *6 on your phone to unmute. Upon being unmuted, you should begin to ask any and all questions you may have. You will have 3 minutes to speak, at the conclusion of which you will be muted again, and the advisory committee or administration will respond as necessary. Each member of the public shall have only one opportunity to speak during each public portion. As the technology does not allow us to know if there are multiple callers on an individual line, we ask that if you wish to speak, that you dial in on a separate line so we can recognize you as a separate individual. Individuals may also submit written comments to the EMS coordinator up to 48 hours prior to the meeting to be read by the EMS coordinator during the public comment portion of the meeting. Said comments shall be limited to 3 minutes of reading. Thank you in advance for your patience as we continue to move the township forward during this health emergency. And please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Dacey is present. Chief Mosier?
Here.
Kayla Green? I see Kayla. John Scarpa?
Here.
See John. Patricia Farmer?
Here.
Ozzy Guzman? I see Ozzy. Evan Shigoski?
Present.
And Daniel Klebonner. Is Dan in, Evan?
Dan is at work. He's currently on call.
Councilmember Khan? And Councilmember Lombardi? I do see her.
Here.
We do have quorum. Now, last week I sent the meeting minutes via email to the advisory council. Is there a motion on the floor to dispense with the reading of the minutes and approve the minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Dacey? Any objections?
I have a question on the meeting minutes.
Go ahead, Mr. Scarpa.
The only thing you have for the meeting minutes is that you read the announcement as far as the introduction, and then there's nothing else.
I have the minutes in front of me here.
There's an open to the public, and there was no comments or any of the stuff brought up from the last meeting.
Yeah, I don't believe there were any motions that were passed in the last meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But there would still be discussion that would have to be noted on the minutes, correct?
I don't think that's accurate. Let me ask Chief or Mr. Baker if he's on.
I'm on. The meetings do not need to be verbatim. They just give a sense of what happened at the meeting.
Right, Mr. Baker, but if there's still a discussion, there should at least be a notation of a discussion. There should be some record of the discussion, whether not verbatim. I'm not asking for a dictation, but there should be a highlights of, much the same with any other meeting minutes. It's not just the announcement and then no close. It makes it seem like nothing happened and there was nothing discussed.
So it's a reasonable request, and Mr. Parent and your fellow EMS committee members can take that under advisement and try that for the next meeting minutes, see how that works. Give a little bit more detail of what was said. Just, it does not need to be verbatim.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as they were distributed. Is there any other objections? All in favor of approving last month's meetings or last meeting, May 2nd meetings? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The meeting minutes will be entered into the record.
Please note that I voted no as well as Ozzy, and I'm not sure what Ms. Farmer said. Ms. Farmer, you're completely muted.
Sorry. I'll vote no as well, in that we can revisit these meeting minutes, revise them, and then approve them at the next meeting.
I'm not sure what Ms. Green said as well.
I approve them for right now. We'll just do this for next meeting, that it needs to be brought up for the discussions, just to keep record of what's being brought up.
Okay, thank you. The meeting minutes as emailed will be entered into the record. Is there any unfinished business?
I'm not sure. The meeting minutes are blank.
Well, I have unfinished business.
Go ahead, Ms. Green.
So I'd like to bring up that July 12th with the Township Council meeting, there was no mention of EMS Council, no recommendations voted upon thus far. So it makes me feel as if the EMS Council is simply happening because of the mandate, but not being utilized as intended to encourage the flow of EMS assets in town or improve service delivery. I've also requested more than once for expectations from PD and JFK so we can make changes as necessary. It's just hard to make adjustments without understanding what expectations are. So we keep being told baby steps, but September will be 1 year. North Stelton continues its effort as a taxpayer-funded entity to be utilized more to serve all residents and individuals needing emergency care within Piscataway. Saturday was a good shift. I got to see officers that I haven't seen in a while. I got to see residents that were grateful for us to be there, and that's why I volunteer. You know, that's why I'm part of the council. But if it's not being brought up, my question is, you know, why are the recommendations not being brought up in Township Council meeting? I would love the opportunity to either make a presentation or speak before the council if that's how that works. But even now, we've had more than enough meetings that something should have been mentioned at least. People put a lot of time and effort into this, and we all come here. So we're trying to make something of this.
This is Mike Baker. Just a suggestion, since this is new to everyone and since we're still operating remotely, do we want to have a brief discussion about how this would be best talked about or raised at a council meeting? We do have a council member on board, the council president. If you know, Michelle, if you have some thoughts about, do we talk about this at the good of the cause or some other portion of the meeting, just as an update or as committee reports? How do you think, or do we have a committee member make a presentation? What and if you want to talk to your fellow council members about it first, or me, that's fine, or the chief, that's fine. But it would be good to see what the thoughts are of the other members. To Patricia's comment.
Yes, I don't think at the last meeting we had decided that unless something was voted upon, we were going to bring it up at the meeting. But if we want to do some sort of an update, maybe we can come up with some sort of update that can be read at a meeting on what was discussed and those things also. But at the last meeting, I remember under your advice that things did not have to go to the council meeting if they were not voted upon at this meeting, and that I believe I remember Tim saying that things could be handled through the EMS council. But if they want some sort of update, I don't see that to be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Scarpa.
Bringing back the January meeting, there was a recommendation voted on by this committee that was supposed to go to the town council in reference to sending the closest available resource to any EMS assignment in Piscataway. I was told for the last 2 meetings to be patient. Well, now we're 7 months removed from that meeting. What's the procedure for those recommendations to make it to the council? Because Obviously, that recommendation has not made it to council because the council would have addressed it. So who's responsible for providing that information to the town council that there was a recommendation set forth for the town council to take action on?
Sure, I can answer that. Once the meeting minutes are approved, I then email them to the township clerk to provide to the council.
Okay, so I will once again ask, the recommendation that was made in January as far as sending clothes as available resource, is it going to be addressed in the town council meeting? Because that was voted on by this committee.
It was my understanding that if the town council members didn't feel the necessity to bring it up at a council meeting, then that wasn't going to be addressed at their meeting. These are recommendations to the council. And if they don't feel the necessity to bring it up at a town council meeting, then that's their prerogative.
And as Mr. Parent said, they're getting those recommendations in the minutes.
I don't think the council members want to be involved with the day-to-day operation of running ambulances. We've got the police department historically has helped manage it. And you got this committee. And I thought that the recommendations when we discussed this in January, I could be wrong, but I thought we said if it can be carried out administratively, then it's carried out administratively. There's nothing in the council's organization that has them acting as the action agent for any department in town. They approve ordinances, they approve contracts, they approve resolutions, but they don't take any action until DPW, you run the yard on every second Saturday, or they don't tell the construction officials that what they have to do. That's not really the role of the council.
Hi,
Go ahead, Evan.
thank you, sir. I'm just gonna echo Ms. Green's sentiments then, based on what Tim said and based on what Tom said, and based on what Michelle said, and what Mr. Baker said as well. If we're all here doing this, it feels like an act of futility. We all are contributing. We're all trying to push the ball forward, make sure things are best for this town, for the residents, for the visitors. And literally every comment that was just stated is the council doesn't feel that these things need to be brought to the council, because if they did, if I understand this correctly, they would have addressed it. That's Mr. Baker's take. Mr. Dacey just said that administratively, day to day, that the town council does not need to be involved and that everyone's getting this. Tom has agreed. So the chief of police, the BA, legal counsel, and a council member are all stating that none of these recommendations are really worth anything. And
No, that's not true. None of the 5 people you quoted said that, Evan. That you just made up.
I don't think I made it up. It's
Yeah, you made that up, Evan. You made that up.
So again,
What I said is that if the recommendation is we can do it administratively, you do it administratively. When I have a discussion with the director of public works on how we're gonna be paving a certain road, I don't take it to 7 members of the councils, ask them to approve something that says how we're gonna be paving the road. We just work it out. That's the idea, the township council. If you learn about the form of government, you'll find out what the council does. The council is not in charge operationally of any department.
okay.
And I understand that, but what I'm getting at is that if that's the route that we choose to go as a municipality, not that I choose because I'm not a member of the governing body, and we haven't gone forward with it, then the inaction speaks for itself. And that's where I'm echoing Ms. Green's concerns that this really just feels like an act of futility at this point. It's like we're just going through the motions.
Can we discuss what's wrong with EMS in Piscataway?
What's wrong? What is?
I have
what
no
is-
problem with that.
Oh, okay, so I'm gonna take this for a second. JFK is doing an awesome job. I'd like to call out that Friday, Jamie, your RN dispatcher, as well as Mike Henderson, the SCTU nurse, was phenomenal, hands down, without question. Every crew that I've met, they are all great. we are a taxpayer funded entity where we're sitting in the building and not being utilized. And I think it would like behoove JFK to have flexibility with that third unit where we're still maintaining 3 units in Piscataway at all times, but let JFK have flexibility in moving that unit when we're in service. You know, we're getting 2 calls where we went from having like 8 or 9 calls, and we're trying to be part of that, to be included. You know, volunteerism, like our crews are just as competent. We have the same equipment. It's not about equipment, time response, we're in building, so we can provide the same level of care. So why can we not be utilized? And it's not disrespect, it's just trying to move forward where we can be recognized and work alongside JFK, that we can even like speak to them, because we can't even communicate at this point. So now baby steps, a year later, you know, almost a year later, what can we do to move forward?
I echo that sentiment. At the last meeting, I believe, or one prior, we were told that River Road, that I have a propensity to make this about River Road and not about the town. River Road has been here for 61 years. It was founded by residents of the town. This ordinance, this enabling ordinance, was written by residents of the town, voted on by residents of the town, overwhelmingly adopted by residents of the town, and even protected in court. River Road is written into this. River Road is part of this. The residents continue to donate. The residents continue to support us in the streets, on the road. They see us out. They ask us about this. We are not taxpayer funded. As open, we agree, we understand, but the residents, they have will. They are who we all eventually answer to. And, you know, again, what Ms. Green said, we completely agree. We don't have a single qualm with JFK, their level of care, their ability to serve. But, you know, the entire country's EMS system is in collapse. In free fall collapse, it was in collapse before COVID. This was just the straw that broke the camel's back. We have already serviced this year we've serviced 18 different municipalities in 4 different counties. Month over month, our call volume is growing. Last month alone was 193 charted responses. The month before that was 150. Before that was 110. Before that was 98. You know, it's growing end over end as people realize that we're here, that we're answering calls, and that it really was never a question of reliability. It was just something else. At some point, we have to move beyond this. JFK deserves to have the flexibility, whether they ask for it or not, because people deserve to have that care. And if we can go somewhere else, that's fine. If they can go somewhere else, that's fine. But we're here and we all answer to the residents. And that's all we're saying. We're not saying that anything's inherently broken beyond fixing. We're not bashing JFK. We're not bashing their performance. We're not saying they're doing anything wrong or right. That's not the question right here. We just want to do right by the people that fund us and support us.
So what this meeting boils down to in its most basic form is that this isn't about improving EMS in Piscataway. It's about River Road Rescue Squad responding to calls and North Stelton responding to calls. Has nothing to do with the quality of EMS in Piscataway. And I beg to differ on your point, Evan, because EMS in Piscataway is not broken. The straw has not broken the camel's back. If those other 18 municipalities have done what Piscataway had done for the best of their residents, to go out to a contractual 3 ambulances, 24 hours a day, then they would be in the perfect situation that we are in right now.
Again, there's a petition, there's an ordinance, we're written into it on both ends. I think the residents disagree.
Let me address that.
We're just here.
If I can. The petition and the ordinance created a committee that was advisory, and it advises the administration, it advises the mayor on policies. And it's, as the business administrator pointed out, this is an administrative function. Your policies, you know, Councilwoman Lombardi can talk about them if the council wants to talk about them, but these are the purview of the mayor and the administration. And as I think I said many times at the beginning of this process, we have a long-term contract with a provider. I think everyone acknowledged they're doing well. And I think the course of these meetings, we have been working with North Stelton, and we are integrating them more and more into the system. But this is advisory, and because your recommendations are not always accepted, doesn't not mean that this is a waste of time or that we're ignoring that the administration may disagree. That's all it is.
Well, at least we can agree that we can disagree, and maybe we see differently as to the purpose of this advisory council. But at the end of the day, an advisement's an advisement, and if we all agree on it, that's what the community wanted. And township doesn't have to agree with us, but we're here.
Ms. Farmer, go ahead.
I'm glad to.
So, I'm sorry.
Mr. Baker, do you have something to add?
I just comment. I'm glad to hear that River Road is doing well in other communities.
Go ahead, Ms. Farmer.
So I just wanted to clarify. So we've made these recommendations. We had 2 that were passed by unanimous consent, both in January, and then again, there was another one in February. Those were given to the township clerk, who presented them to the council, and the council chose not to hear them or discuss them, but they would like someone to perhaps come and talk about in general what this advisory board does. I just want to clarify the process for myself.
Recommendate that the minutes were given. So your recommendations officially per the ordinance are to the mayor and the administration. But the township council does get a copy of your minutes. So they've read them and apparently have decided there's nothing that they wanted to discuss further. And I think it's pretty obvious that the administration has chosen to take those recommendations, but not to act on them, because they obviously, I don't want to speak for the chief for Tim, but they disagree with them. What I think Councilwoman Labarty was saying is that she doesn't have a problem giving an update at some point in the meeting as to things we're discussing. That, again, don't want to put words in the councilwoman's mouth, but that's what I thought.
All we have is possible chat saying the mail caller keeps hanging up, a little bit of a language barrier.
No, sorry.
Okay, is there any other unfinished business before we move on to new business? I don't see any hands. Any new business? Go ahead, Evan.
Again, Mr. Baker, we don't want to be painful here, so I do have some questions that I was given. They're pretty much yes, no. I want to run through them so we can all just get on with our day. So forgive me, it's really quick. Mr. Izetta, I guess you're here on behalf of JFK, sir?
Correct.
I have a question for you. Is this an open public comment or is this new business?
I can ask a question and you can determine how you'd like to classify it. If you'd like me to wait, I guess I can wait. I didn't know I was commenting as a member of the public.
Well, is this a question on your behalf or is it a question you received on someone else's behalf?
No, this is a question on behalf of River Road. I promise you, I probably need 3-4 minutes and I'll be done.
Open public comment. Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to ask JFK questions that they're pressured into answering at this meeting when they are invited here as guests. I would, what? Yeah, they're not part of the advisory council. I would suggest that you forward those questions and
I can ask you if you'd like. I'm sorry, Mr. Izetta, I didn't mean to pressure you in any way, shape, or form, sir.
As long as the coordinator is okay with it, you can ask the questions under, I guess under this, Mr. Baker can comment on that, whether it's.
They're really simple. I'm not trying to entrap anyone, sir. They're just simple questions.
Evan, go ahead with your questions.
Okay, our BLS ambulances, JFK once posted at the approved posting points by the township. And if so, what are these locations?
I don't know that JFK is at those posted locations at all times, but they are definitely in flux throughout the town. There was never a hard and fast rule that they had to be at those locations at all times.
Okay. How many times a month, because I believe we had spoken about this previously, how many times a month do one of the 3 BLS units provide mutual aid service outside of the township?
I don't know.
We don't know. Okay. And then these are, that was all I was gonna ask, Mr. Izetta. For the township, does a division of is a division of EMS formed under the police department?
It's in the Department of Public Safety, and the mayor has delegated the chief to be his chief administrative officer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. I appreciate it. This question was asked about how the recommendations were sent to the township. I think we beat that one up. We spoke about the minutes. So I can skip most of this. We're wondering what the status of in-person meetings are. Mr. Now I can't remember your name. EMS coordinator. My apologies. Mr. Detective Parent. My apologies. Didn't mean to forget your name, sir. Detective Parent read that whole portion out in the beginning. Stated that the health emergency dictates that we do this. The health emergency has since ceased. And we were just wondering from the township at what point we're gonna, start resuming in-person meetings so that we can plan to attend them, since this is during the day.
We will follow the lead of the mayor and what his decisions are as to when meetings are back in.
Got it. So it's up to the mayor. And then there was one portion, I believe Mr. Dacey, and possibly Mr. Baker earlier. A lot has gone on in the last year. My apologies if I get the people wrong. We were told that we need to clean up our act before the township would consider even working with us. I know at the last meeting, Mr. Mosher stated the township does not currently wish to work with us. We understand this. We had asked for a list of concerns, the same as Ms. Green has spoken about, what's needed just in general from EMS in the township. We have yet to receive a list of concerns. Is anyone planning to forward such a list?
How does this go towards improving EMS in Piscataway?
Because again, we're part of this community.
This is a rehash of things.
So I'm not yelling at you.
times.
I'm not yelling at you.
I'm not yelling, but we've hashed this out 5 times. And
So-
these are the same things that continually come up.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. So
And we
at
will
what-
not address them here. So your
at
question
what
has been
point,
answered.
when are we gonna get the list of concerns? That's all.
You're not.
So you're not gonna give us a list of concerns?
No, you are not an EMS entity in Piscataway,
Okay.
period.
And we're getting completely off topic for new business.
Exactly my point.
Okay. And that was actually it, pretty
Good.
much.
I thank you, Evan. Is there any other new business?
Thank you, sir.
I don't see any hands. I have one announcement. The next EMS advisory meeting dates, October 31st at 3:30 in the afternoon. I'll send over the minutes for this meeting as well as invitation to that next meeting within the next month or so. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Scarpa.
As a person with a 7-year-old, I don't think I'm going to be able to part with a Halloween with my son for a meeting. Can we move that meeting back a week? I can't make a motion, so if anybody wants to help me out, that'd be fantastic.
I would love to make a motion to move that meeting back a week.
I'll second.
Mr. Baker, we're out of new business, but is this appropriate? We can have the advisory council vote on a new date.
Absolutely. And let's see if there's, usually these things are done by consensus without having to take a vote. So you might just want to see if anybody has a problem with moving the date.
Mr. Scarpa, would you like a later meeting? I know that's been an issue as well.
I just want it not on Halloween. I'd like to stay out of divorce court.
We want to do the 24th is, nobody, you said you're pushing it back, that could mean forward or backwards. So we're going back.
We have to go backwards. I have many conflicts if we move forward.
I was thinking like that, was that November 7th, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, I can't do November 7th. We have to go
Think,
back. to October.
October
closer
24th,
to us.
Monday.
Okay.
Yeah,
How's
I'm good with the 24th.
moving it to Monday, the 24th.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, now you can make the motion for the 24th since there seems to be consensus. Evan, were you making that motion?
Sure. Amend my motion to move our next meeting to, I believe it was the 24th of October.
I'll second.
Who was that seconding?
Patricia Farmer.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Farmer. There's a motion to move the next EMS advisory meeting to Monday, October 24th. The time would be normal time at 3:30 PM, and there's been a second. Without objection? So moved. Okay, I will update the Zoom meeting and send out a new invitation. Any other announcements? All right, this is now the time for public comment. I'm going to mute everyone.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. We have an announcement. I don't know if this falls under this specifically. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead. Evan.
We will be hosting future food drops for the community. We just like anyone that's tuning in to follow our social media. For those in need, with everything changing, please follow us. We're more than glad to help feed some hungry mouths.
Okay, thank you, Evan. This is now the time for public comment. If any member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your hand. This can be done either through the Zoom app or by pressing *9 on your phone. I will unmute members of the public individually if they have their hand raised. When it is your turn to speak, you will get a prompt or request to unmute. Please click on the prompt or press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. At that time, please state your name and address and know that you will have 3 minutes in which to make your comment. The EMS Advisory Committee or administration will respond if necessary after you have completed any comments or questions. We have one hand. Go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, members of the commission. My name is Charlie Cradaville. I'm a resident in New Brunswick and the editor of New Brunswick Today. I had some questions for the commission and some concerns to share, first and foremost, about a former dispatcher for Piscataway, Ronald Jones. I want to make it clear that he's no longer a dispatcher because of a crime he committed in connection with his position. He was incarcerated and is now released. And I want to read into the record an excerpt from a January 19th letter from Chief Mosier. Quote, "I regret any lack of oversight that allowed Mr. Jones to utilize his Piscataway police sign-in to the website after the termination of his employment. It is a universally accessible website that the police department uses. Police dispatchers have access to many sources of information, and as a full-time dispatcher, Mr. Jones properly had that access. Although not sworn personnel, he was obligated to follow the same rules and regulations. His error in judgment was a criminal act, and my department took swift action to charge him with a crime." End quote. And I do want to also read another sentence into the record. This is to both the victim of the crime. Quote, "I want to assure you that steps have been taken to prevent this type of breach from occurring again. And I have reached out with questions, but have not gotten the answers. I'd like to hear from Chief Mosier if he can tell us whether Dispatcher Jones resigned or was fired. And he mentioned that steps were taken to prevent this type of breach from occurring again. Can he tell the public what steps actually have been taken to prevent those kinds of breaches?"
So Charlie, this is
Charlie.
good. You know, this is an EMS advisory board meeting. EMS advisory board meeting. We do not discuss personnel. The board itself does not do anything with personnel. So this is an inappropriate topic for you to bring up at this meeting.
I'll defer to the chair on what's appropriate or inappropriate to bring up. I
How
think
about
that dispatchers are.
we have our law
Sure.
director deal with you, Charlie.
I'll
Mike,
defer to the chair. And
Chair's-
I do
Chair's
think
not-
that the
Chair's
dispatchers
not-
who handle the calls for EMS assistance is a very relevant topic to bring up at this commission.
Charlie, this is Mike. You've been asking this question for 6 months. You're going to get the same answer. We're not going to comment on a personnel matter, but I think you very artfully pointed out the fact that the police department pressed charges against this individual. As a result, he was convicted and spent time in jail. That's the comment you've gotten before, and that's the only comment you'll get today. What's your next question?
The 3 minutes has expired. Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So Matt Phillips, Canterbury Court, Piscataway. Just a couple questions. The first one is, I know in the beginning, during the first meeting, Detective Parent stated that, you know, he was an EMT, and that's obviously one of the requirements to hold the position on the board. After there was a Oprah request that was posted on oprahmachine.com to Piscataway Township requesting copies of the certifications, medical certifications that Detective Parent holds. They stated that they have no that there's no record of any EMT, CPR, first aid, etc. I'm just trying to find out, because it is public record, what Detective Parent's EMT number is for the state of New Jersey to determine that he is an EMT in good standing. The other question that I have, I guess this would be for the township administrator or for the attorney, is at what point in time does Chief Mosier's yelling and berating of people on the committee get shut down? I feel like this is an unprofessional tone for somebody in a position that he holds, and it really sets a bad image for the police department. The last thing is to clarify a misnomer that the chief mentioned about EMS and not having issues with staffing. That is completely incorrect. As an EMT in the field for over 2 decades, I can assure you that even the largest EMS providers, hospital-based or not, across the country are experiencing extreme issues with staffing of emergency ambulances, whether it be JFK, Robert Wood, Atlantic Care, you name it, everybody's having an issue. And if somebody is saying that they're not having an issue, I can assure you, gentlemen and ladies, that that is false. Everybody is having an issue. I know this firsthand. And I can assure you that the information that the chief provided is, in fact, inaccurate. While I understand he served the fire service and I appreciate his years of service, he has no clue what EMS, what's affecting EMS these days, which is the reason why there's this advisory council. If I could get the answers to my first 2 questions answered, I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, are there any other public comments? I don't see any hands. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Mr. Daisy? Any objections? So moved. The motion is passed. The meeting is adjourned at 14:10 hours. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, everybody. See you in October.
Recording stopped.